everyone, this is Jack from the Cardboard Herald, and today we are taking a look at the new joint by Bruno Cathala and Johannes Goopy, Orichalcum, published by Pandasaurus Games. This is a game of action selection, kind of drafting, and tile placement set in ancient Greece, where you are trying to be the first to get 5 points to immediately score a victory, so long as there are no monsters hanging out on your island. Because you can't win the game if there are monsters, but killing monsters gives you a whole ton of other benefits aside from just freeing you up to win. So let's talk Orichalcum. Now, first off, if you watch this channel for any period of time, you know that I am a big Bruno Cathala fan. I love the sensibility from his games that's all about a very narrow decision matrix with tons of opportunity cost and ramifications for all of the simple but really meaningful, intense decisions that you end up making. And this absolutely capitalizes on that. I'm sure that Johannes brings a lot to the table as well, but the Bruno Cathala vibe is felt throughout. Each player has their own island in Greece that starts with just one set of 2 different little bubbles filled up, making up your initial metropolis. And on your turn, you are going to select one card from this river of cards that has an action listed on it, but has been populated with a tile corresponding to the tile size listed on that card, placing that tile onto your board and then performing just the action associated with the card that you drafted. So already this is a game where you are having to make tense decisions about the best possible tile that you're bringing into your region, but also the actions that you want. And immediately you start feeling like, I want to do all the things. But of course, you're hampered and can only do one of these things, and that's what kind of creates the overall tension and push and pull of the game. What I love is that the things that you get, they're all really simplistic. There are only 4 different types of actions that you can take. There are only 4 different types of regions that can be depicted on tiles, with the exception being that the volcanoes, which are populated with monsters, those are wilds for some purposes of the game, but also introduce monsters onto your island, which you have to contend with to give you all sorts of other bounties. So the actions, they really come down to 2 different types of resource production, getting you not gold, Orichalcum, the ancient Greek uru metal that is associated with all sorts of mythological awesome stuff, or hoplites, the little infantry units that are just little blue dudes who help with your combat, but also give you a lot of control over momentum and tempo and can be spent to access cards further up the action selection river. Though Orichalcum, while not giving you as many dynamic options for interacting with the game, is going to be one of your primary sources of points by spending 5 on a build action to get a big point token that slots into your board and is like, yo, I just got 20% of my point total, deal with it. Which brings us to building, which is one of the remaining 4 actions and allows you to construct one thing, which can be little unique power building tiles that either increase your production or give you unique strength when dealing with monsters, or get resources when killing monsters, or allow you to have additional capabilities in general throughout the game. Or you can build one of the Orichalcum point tokens, or there's a temple that is another source of points that if you have 4 different regions aligned together that are 4 different region types, which is where the volcanoes counting as wilds come in, you can overlay that with one of these temples, and that's going to get you another one of these points. The last action you can take is to fight monsters, which is kind of like a little mini game where you can in sequence fight every monster on your board in one action, so long as you don't fail, which will stop the action. I really like the combat in this game. You have 1 die by default, and you can increase that by spending hoplites, and the dice are numbered 1 through 5 with a skull on the 6. If you roll any skulls, then you win the combat automatically. Doesn't matter how much strength the monster has. Otherwise, you have to meet or beat their strength score. You kill the monster, you get some benefit for doing so. It frees you up to win the game, and that monster, along with your Orichalcum or your hoplites, can all be spent in groups of 2 matching resources to give yourself 1 bonus action, which is where we really get into what makes this game special. At first, I thought that this game was going to be relatively basic. You know, it has this presentation that harkens back to the classic games of Days of Wonder in both good and bad ways, but I thought it was going to be really rudimentary and that there weren't going to be too many sharp strategic decisions that you can make, but not so. This is a game all about momentum and rhythm that you can build up because of the uber restriction on the actions that you take. You get one action on your turn, and you can pay for one bonus action as well. And then to add a little bit of secret sauce, which makes all the difference on top of this, the player who starts each round is the player who ended the previous round with the most hoplites. What this means is if you play your cards right, you thread the needle just right, you can end one round, and if you have the most hoplites, then take the first action on the next round with 4 back-to-back actions. That can be incredibly potent and gives you a lot of dynamism and control. Adding to the severity and tension and that sort of momentum are the Titans. There are 4 Titans corresponding to the different terrain types, and if you, on your turn, add a terrain to your board that creates a cluster of any given terrain type of 3 or more, you take the corresponding Titan from wherever they are. And that Titan is worth a point, but it's also an exhaustible one-time use bonus action. It either doubles your production, automatically kills a monster. There's a bunch of different cool things that you can do with them. So again, as soon as you get about 30% of the way into your first game, you're already understanding that there are huge consequences to each of these relatively simplistic decisions that you're taking. And those consequences can also be how to take things from your opponent, because like I said, if you get one of those Titans, you take it from wherever that Titan is currently at, including from another player. And it gives this definite sense of tempo and control and sequencing that I wasn't expecting, but is really welcome in how visually appealing and approachable and inviting and poppy this game looks. Though I should say, on the visual presentation, the production side of things, this is one of Orichalcum's low points. And you may be like, dude, Jack, it looks great on the table, which it does. It does look great on the table, but it has these enormous tokens that in some regards feel completely overwrought, just overbearing on the table. And there's a lot of maintenance associated with shuffling the cards down the river as you populate them, putting the tiles onto them. For how quick your turns can go, you are chewing through this deck of cards and the associated tiles, and then you have the monsters on these standees, which they look cool to be on standees, but you're knocking them over, you're pushing them over. Maybe this is just a me thing, having big arms and big movement, but the game does have a surprising amount of fiddly components, a lot of upkeep for the sort of minimalistic action matrix that you're dealing with. Also, the illustrations, while some of them are really great and vibrant and I feel like have their own definite aesthetic to them, some of them feel really generic and somewhat off-putting, like they don't really have an identity of their own. Probably the most make it or break it thing about this game is going to be that severity, how to capitalize on the actions, how to make sure that you have the momentum and pivot from action to action to action, when to take bonus actions, when to hold back, when to make sure that you're going first in the next round, when to try to go last. It can also feel like you're digging yourself into a pit if you aren't keeping up with other players at the table. There are lots of opportunities to fill out your island in very unfortunate ways, so you don't have the flexibility to nab titans or put on temples, and other players are going to take advantage of that. And this is even more keenly felt in a 2-player game where at the end of every turn, a player has to discard one of the cards from the market. So not only are you taking the card for yourself that you most want, you are discarding a card, preventing other players from having access to it, institutionalizing hate drafting in a way that can feel kind of demoralizing if you're already in a disadvantageous position. But if 2 players are meeting at the same level in this game, it is very, very satisfying to use these few systems to their full benefit and feel like you are just flowing through the matrix. And that's our review. Orichalcum is a surprisingly deep and exciting strategy game that has this very vibrant visual presentation that's inviting, and the game itself is accessible, having very easy to understand, simplistic decisions, but full attention because you are stripped of the capacity to do it all. And if that sounds like a game that you might like, then Orichalcum executes on it beautifully. But let me know, what are your favorite types of action selection systems, and what's your favorite game set in Greece, either real-world Greece or mythological? Put it in the comments below, and as always, thanks for watching, thanks for supporting, and thanks for being a great community. You know, I've been Jack for the Cardboard Herald.